What's up, witches? It's Starlight out in the afternoon, and this video is going to be kind of like a contribution to Azure Dragonfeather's 31 Days of Samhain. If you don't know what that is, where have you been living? Under a rock apparently, because does it every year, kind of like a little Samhain tradition type of thing, and this year we're going to be covering kind of like releasing your shadows or accepting your shadows or whatever she's going to call it. So for my contribution, I'm going to give like a little bit of information about kind of how I've come to accept my shadows, and a little bit of a story about something that happened recently. It's kind of like a exploration of like a breaking back into my shadows after having been fine for a while, and answering some questions that she's given me to answer. So for a little context, I'm going to be looking down because I've got notes down there. A little bit of context, I covered a teaching assistant position a few weeks ago in a school, and for the first few days I was tasked with being a one-to-one with a young boy who had some behavioural issues, like serious behavioural issues. Refused any kind of learning, didn't like people, had like 2 friends in the class and one of them he didn't like half the time. Did my best to understand him because I could like feel his pain, and I knew that everything that he was doing was just a reaction to like his little body not being able to take the emotions that were going around in his head and things like that. I wanted to ease his pain as much as I could, but I was still in a school and I had to make him do things he didn't want to do, like learning and like maths and English and writing and reading, because he was 7 years old and could not read. Yeah, that kind of kid. So one afternoon we were building things with Lego, and I discreetly had him doing some maths, so kind of like how many pieces of Lego we're putting into this thing, and got to count them and things like that. So that was pretty much the only way I could get him to do any of that kind of stuff. So I had him discreetly doing some maths, and he turned to me and said, "I want to hurt you, I want you to hurt yourself, I want to kill you, I want you to kill yourself." And I know that that had absolutely nothing to do with me. That was just his pain like reflecting onto me and like bouncing off him, like because he didn't know how to deal with what he was feeling, like the pain that he was feeling. He had to throw some of it out onto somebody else. And obviously I couldn't really react to that at the time, other than just saying like, "Oh, that's not very nice. What makes you say that?" and things like that, and trying to explore where that's coming from with him. But yeah, it was just a reflection of his own pain, which was too big for his little body and brain. And when he said he didn't really, when he actually said it, it didn't really affect me because I couldn't let it. But when I got home, and on the walk home, I thought about it more and more and more, and the more I thought about it, the more it affected me. So I ended up in tears on the floor with my mum on the phone as she was on her way back from work a few hours later. So basically just kitchen floor reset kind of moment. If you've seen Russell Kane, you'll know what I'm talking about. So this triggered quite a few moments in my past of extreme anxiety and depression where I actually like did hurt myself, and actually did think about ending it all. Of course it isn't that child's fault, but his words did trigger me a lot. I've had a lot of experience dealing with my shadows, especially in my young childhood and then again in university. Childhood in me was a similar situation to that boy. It's just I had a lot of confusing things going on, and I didn't really know how to deal with it other than to just vomit it out onto other people and hope that they could deal with it better than I could. Too much hurt and pain and confusion for too little a body and brain to process, basically. Caused by my own father, who himself was a very hurt and broken and twisted man. But that didn't help my situation. University me was chipped away at bit by bit by an abusive ex, so much so that I lost myself and didn't know who I was without him anymore, and he made me rely on him, then got mad at me for relying on him. It was all like very gaslighty and twisted. So it was like kind of made me reliant on him, and then was like, oh, go out and do your own thing, and like, oh, I'm just doing this, and like, why can't you do anything by yourself, and that kind of thing. So very gaslighty, very like emotionally manipulative and abusive, and mentally manipulative and abusive and shit like that. So we getting deep right now. I can now recognise whenever I'm moving into a period of shadows, or when something is resurfacing that I need to heal. These are only 2 examples. I've been dealing with my shadows my whole life, and it has certainly not been an easy one. Not saying that for like, don't pity me, I'm dealing with it, I'm a strong bitch. But yeah, everyone has their own shadows to deal with, and everyone has their own experiences and their own pain and their own hurts and their own life to deal with. But my version of mine has had some tough moments. So to deal with my shadows, I try to confront them head on. I ask why they are bothering and triggering me so much. And it's going to start raining, fantastic. At least I made it home first. I dig and dig until I find the real root of the problem and deal with that problem accordingly. And the 2 examples I've given, so like childhood, with my dad like having some daddy issues, and my previous abusive ex, the solution seems to be completely removing myself from that situation. I have neither seen nor spoken to my father since I was about 9 years old, and I have not spoken to that ex in almost 2 years now. I was triggered again when I found out that he and my best friend at the time had gotten together and are still together as far as I know. But I removed myself from her life too. Took a long time to realise that the only fault of mine was putting too much faith in the wrong people and allowing them to steal my power and walk all over me. So basically, the thing that was my fault was not removing myself from that situation sooner. And I do still have moments where I get kind of like a little bit sad. Like, I'm not so much sad about losing the ex anymore, it's more like the best friend that I also lost, because I was friends with her for a lot longer, and I was a lot closer with her, kind of like emotionally, and like for longer. And there are things that we used to do together that I still do alone that I'm like, I remember when we used to do this together, so I'm still a little bit like salty and triggered, and there's things that she did to me that she never would have done to her other best friend, so still a little bit salty over that, but I'm in the process of healing. It's happening. So I realise now that I have all the power I need to heal myself, and some to heal other people as and when I'm needed to, but heal myself first because I am my own priority. I've been through a lot, even in the 2 examples above. Very blanket examples of just 2 people who cause major shadows and need for healing in my life. But even though I've allowed others to hurt me, I've also given myself the opportunity to learn and heal and become even stronger. So with like the blanket things, like that's just an overview of what those 2 people did. There are very, very specific examples that I will not be going into, because that's like, 1, video is getting kind of long, 2, like, nah, let's not unpack that. That would have to be a very much longer video, and one that is like much more emotionally raw than I am willing to dig right now. I have given myself the opportunity to take the experiences I've gone through and use what I've learned to help others as well. I've learned to look deeper than the surface of people, really examine them, their words, actions and energy before committing myself to being around them. And I have also learned that to protect myself, it is okay to change my mind and walk away, which I struggled with a lot in university. Like, if I'm loyal to a fault, like literally to a fault, because I kind of stick around people even if I know I shouldn't, just because I've put time and energy and effort into kind of being around them and making memories with them, and I don't really want to walk away from that if I can help it. But I'm learning that to protect myself, it's okay to walk away. I have learned a lot about myself through the shadowy experiences I have been through. They have been the biggest period of growth in my life thus far. They have given me new hope and new goals. I still have triggering moments and I'm still healing, but as of now I'm very happy. I'm able to earn money in a job I'm mostly enjoying, so save for moments like that triggering kid, or being beaten up in a professional setting. So the kids are just expelling pain onto me because they don't know how else to deal with it, so that's how I like to see it. But it's a job I enjoy anyway. And save for the biggest excitement in my life, my relocation to another country, which is the job that I'm definitely going to enjoy. I'm excited to prepare and move, and if it hadn't been for my shadows, I never would have had the courage to take this journey within and explore both myself and the world more. So if I hadn't been through a lot of the things I've been through, I would not be on this path I'm on now, and I'm very, very excited to be on this path I'm on now. So, experience bit over. Question 1 from Azura was, how do you feel about your shadow now as opposed to previously? I used to be very afraid of my shadows, especially in university. I felt like this darkness around me it felt like it was this darkness around me that was just dragging me down. So it was just like constant darkness, like felt like I was drowning, couldn't breathe a lot of the time, like very, very bad anxiety and depression. Because I was letting it control me rather than learning from it. However, now I feel like it's this balancing force. I feel like it absorbs all of my bad experiences and dark emotions for me to deal with and heal when I'm ready to do so. It means I'm not overwhelmed with everything at once, so for that reason I'm very grateful for it. I love my shadow now just as much as I love my light. Question 2 is, do you practice shadow work, why or why not? I do practice shadow work. It's a very helpful way for me to understand myself more deeply, to grow as a person and heal from any past traumas. It also helps me build on my own goals and dreams and become a stronger and better person than I ever thought I could be. So I think that's pretty self-explanatory in that one. Question 3, does your craft incorporate your shadow and the darker elements? So yes, seeing as I work with shadow work. Yes, it does indeed. I used to be so afraid of doing this, especially when I started out. I used to be solely love and light, but now I see how unbalanced I was because I wasn't dealing with my shadows and it was just building and building since it was basically being ignored. But now I deal with it when I need to. I can also focus my attention on love and light and manifestation when I need to as well. In the words of Uncle Iroh, we all depend on the balance. So, Uncle Iroh from Avatar Last Airbender, because he's my baby. So incorporating shadows and like kind of darker elements to my craft, so like kind of binding, banishing, that kind of thing. I used to be terrified of doing that before. Like even like I've got a video on blood magic. Like I never would have had that when I started out a few years ago. So I think it's just as long as you can balance yourself out and not go too much one way or too much the other way. Personally for me in my craft, I feel like I need the balance to just kind of do no harm but take no shit kind of thing. Question 4. What is one thing you wish for your shadow self to know and why? I wish for her to know how grateful I am for her. She has helped me more than I ever gave her credit for in my youth. So I want her to know I am grateful for her and I'm not afraid of her anymore. Or I'm not afraid for her anymore. And I would like her to know that because I feel like I spent a lot of my time rejecting my shadows and just not dealing with them. So if I didn't know how to deal with it, I just wouldn't deal with it. I would just push it way down and have a little bit of a cry, but other than that, end up taking it out on other people, which isn't fair. So I'm not going to do that anymore because I've accepted my shadows, most of them. Question 5. What do you wish for others to know about their shadows and the darker realities of life? I wish for people to know that they are necessary for you to live in any form of balance or harmony, basically. To work with only love and light is like only going to the gym. It's like going to the gym and only working out your upper body. You'll have great strength to help others, but you'll have weak legs to stand on when it comes to supporting yourself and dealing with anything negative in your life. And you'll be that much more susceptible to losing control and going to that dark place. And without the strength in your legs, it'll be much more of a struggle to clamber out of that hole. Metaphor aside, we all need the balance of dark and light to understand life, the universe, others and ourselves to our fullest extent. So get on that shadow healing journey and you can thank me later. So that's everything I have written down. So that's my experience and my contribution to this 31 Days of Samhain for 2020. Finally a part of the journey. Woohoo! So I will leave any kind of links to like my post and to like the actual videos and stuff like that in the description down below. And yes, what are your shadows? What are your answers to the questions, and how much have you learned from your shadows, if you have learned anything from your shadows in 2020? I feel like it's been a very, very good year for all of us who do shadow work to learn a thing or two about ourselves. And yeah, I think that wraps up this video. So until next time, I was going to say stay geeky, cheeky and freaky. That's not my outro. Be unapologetically you, that's my outro. No shame, and I will see you in the next video. Mwah.